Welcome to Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, the #1 podcast and resource for Black entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and Black Entrepreneur Blueprint was created specifically to educate and inspire Black entrepreneurs to launch, build, and grow successful, sustainable businesses. Join us as we help build an economic power base in the worldwide Black community by building and supporting Black-owned businesses. If you're currently an entrepreneur or want to be an entrepreneur, you're invited to join us each and every week here at Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. Welcome to the BEB family and get ready to elevate your entrepreneur IQ. Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, episode number 393. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and today we have another outstanding and informative show in store for you. Today we're going to be speaking with Miss Pam Perry, who is the founder of Pam Perry PR. Now, Pam is going to talk to us today about how to grow your business in terms of using PR and branding strategies. Now, before we get to today's show, I just want to share a few things with the BEB family. First and foremost, I want to welcome all first-time listeners and viewers to Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. Welcome to the BEB family. Please stick around until the end of today's broadcast, and I'm going to share all my social media contact information and resource links, such as the link to my new book, A New Black Wall Street, Circulating the Black Dollar Worldwide by Building Successful E-Commerce Businesses. Also, 2 platforms I've created to help circulate dollars in the worldwide Black economy, BeSmartByBlack.com and HireBlackFreelancers.com. Also, I wanted to remind you guys the new rebranded, rebooted BEB Academy is available. Now, it doesn't matter if you're a current entrepreneur or potential entrepreneur. Black Entrepreneur Blueprint Academy has all types of learning resources, courses, master classes, and resources to help you launch, build, and grow successful businesses. And you can get 3 days free access by going to bebacademy.com. Also, I want to let you guys know that on this Wednesday, January 26th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to have Pam Perry live on our first IG Live. Wednesday, January 26th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, this is going to come out Monday, so 2 days from today, make sure you tune in. Also, remember to subscribe to us on IG Live. I have 2 IG Live accounts. The first one is Jay Jones for Real. That's JAYJONES, the number 4 REAL. And the second one is Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. So make sure you follow me on Instagram so you'll get notified and you'll be able to jump on live with myself and Pam Perry. Now, I'm about to bring Pam in. We got some new technology here, and hopefully this works. We are live with Miss Pam Perry, the founder of Pam Perry PR. Pam, how are you today?
I am excellent. Thank you, Jay, for having me.
Most definitely. We've been talking to each other for years now, and I finally got you on the show. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom and experience with the BEB family.
I love it. I love it. I love your colors. That was the first thing I noticed about you. I said, "Oh, this is a red, black, and green brother." I said, "I like it. I like that."
That's it. We got to represent.
Yes. Mine
So
is the same.
I know. I was checking out your site. So for people that don't know you, Pam, give us a little bit about you personally, and then we're going to jump into your entrepreneurial story.
Sure. I'm from Detroit, so I'm a Motown girl of the 60s. Grew up around the corner from a lot of the Motown stars. So Berry Gordy has a big influence on my life. Okay. So I kind of like when I was growing up, I was like, I want to be like that. So I'm a publicist by trade. For the last 3 decades, I've been doing PR for speakers and authors and subject matter experts, entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants. I really, really love helping people who have a message get out there and get known. And that's primarily what I've done. My first career was as a journalist. I worked at the Detroit Free Press. I worked at different television stations and radio stations and things like that. And then really dug into the advertising PR world, which is where I've stuck. I stayed there. And one of my jobs before I started my business was I was the director of public relations for the Salvation Army. So I did that for about 7 years. So every 7 years or so, you would say I would make a move. 7 years at the Detroit Free Press, 7 years working in media, TV, and radio, and then 7 years as PR director of the Salvation Army. And then eventually I just heard the call of entrepreneurship and said, okay, time to leave.
Time to
Time to
go.
go. Make
Well,
that
it,
faith jump.
well, it's funny. I wanted to ask you about that. You must have read my notes because I was going to ask you, were you in corporate America first? And obviously you just went through that. So was there a specific moment in time that made you or confirm your decision to go into entrepreneurship, or was it just something that had been building?
I would say when I was about 16, I wrote down exactly what I wanted my goals to be, that I was going to go to college and that I was going to work at an ad agency or a PR firm. And then eventually I said at about 40, I was going to open up my own business. I wrote this down. I wish I could find that paper, but I did wrote it down. I even wrote down what age I wanted to get married and have children, right? And so I knew I guess from really just writing that down at a certain point in time, I knew I wanted to do that. I didn't know anyone Black that had a advertising or a PR firm. I had read a novel called The Rosemary's Touch about a white woman that was a copywriter and how she had an ad agency when I was in high school. And I said, I want to do that one day, but I didn't have any role models about that. So I said, well, I guess I probably need to go and work for an ad agency if I want to own one day. And I did that. I interned all through college at ad agencies. I won a fellowship to Chicago. I worked for J. Walter Thompson. I worked on some large clients, Oscar Mayer and things like that. And I really just decided one day that I wanted to do that. Well, when I got out of college, I worked at the Detroit Free Press. So I did that for 7 years. But it never left me, I guess, really, that I wanted to own an ad agency. So roughly it's about the age of 40 or so, almost 40, where I decided I really need to go work for myself. Part of it was that every time I worked for someone, it was some drama.
Right.
And I guess we would say either I quit or I got fired. So that was like part of it's like, well, maybe you need to go work for yourself. But most people quit jobs because of people, right? And so by being an entrepreneur, I wanted that freedom to pick and work with clients. Most of my clients are what I eventually become my friends. So I really, really love working with my clients. And
Pam, what was your first business? And you kind of mentioned that you had it in your mind at 16 years old that you wanted a PR agency. So when you started out, did you have any like side hustles or businesses before that? Or you went full bore?
Yeah, it wasn't really like the side hustle thing. I mean, we're talking like in the 80s or early 90s. What my first business was PPC. And it was Pam Perry Consultants, right? That was real creative. Actually, it wasn't Perry at the time. It was PPC, not paid pay-per-click, right? But it was Pam Pratt Consultants. And really, I was doing consulting. I was doing event planning. And what it really was is that the job that I was at, I really hated it. And I just up one day and just quit. And I was running a nonprofit called Blacks in Advertising, Radio, and Television. And that nonprofit was really a way where I had a lot of visibility in the community. And so I said a lot of people were at that point like saying, well, I'd like to hire you to consult and coach. And so I did PPC, Pam Perry, Pam Pratt Consulting. Well, I didn't know anything about running a business at that time. And I would have one client and I would work on that client. And then when the contract was over, I was like, now what? Like I did not know how to keep clients in the funnel, to keep prospecting for new business. So eventually I had to go back and get a job. But that was my first business. And then after that, the next business that I really started was quote unquote like a better type of business. It was called SIMP, Special Events and Meeting Planners. And really the main thing, again, I had clients. They would come to me, and I remember putting together a fundraiser for the United Negro College Fund, and it was really, really good, and I got paid really, really well. And after the event was over, I was like, now what? I was like, oh my God. I was like, I can't live like this. This is crazy. I was like, I've got to do better. And I went back and got a job. And so those were like my first two experiences. But it wasn't until I really started working with my husband, who had a business for about 10 years. After I left the Salvation Army, we had our daughter. And I said, I really don't want to go back to working as a PR director of the Salvation Army. I said, I'd like to work with you as vice president of public relations. He had an ad agency. And so I did that for a few years until a big crash in the automotive. His clients were Chrysler, Ford, and GM, and his business went out of business. But at that point, though, I really saw how a business should run, how he was always marketing and prospecting, and I helped him with that. I said, I get it now. You have to get your name out there and known. You just can't be
Right.
good at what you're doing, but part of your job as an entrepreneur, 50% of it is marketing. And so I
Right.
realized that after he went out of business, and I just heard as clear as day a voice inside of me that says, start your own company now. And that's when the company was born in 2000. And that was
Wow.
really pre-internet, and I think I got a website and that sort of thing. But really, a part of it was just really making sure that I market my business alongside doing the business. And one book that really changed my idea about that, Jay, was the E-Myth, about how you can
Right.
work in your business and on your business. So I was doing both finally at the same time, working on the business as well as in the business and
Business.
building a team. And I had interns and things like that. And so when I started in 2000, my first clients were a lot of publishing houses. It was Random House, Harrison House, FaithWorks, just a lot of the large Christian publishers specifically that were targeting the African American market. And so those were my large clients. And I got them by going to
Wow.
events and being seen, being visible. A lot of it was a lot of white people there. So it was like,
Right.
who's this black girl? So I would actually tell them that I target the African American market. So I would get them into black media because that was my
Mm.
specialty for their black Christian authors. And so I became the go to girl for that, probably the first 5 or 6 years of my company of really doing
Wow.
PR. And so, again, marketing your business alongside of doing the work in the business and doing good work is really the balancing act that most entrepreneurs need to get, because if
Yeah.
not, you just can't work on one piece of business and then where's your
Yeah.
piece of business going to come from? It's not going to just walk through the door, so you have to
Doing.
always be marketing.
Well, it's so funny that you mentioned going in and out of businesses, right? I did the exact same thing. Went out in corporate after college, went out, came back in. And at first, my first business was an event marketing business, kind of similar to yours. So I was doing baby and children's expos. I was doing all types of trade shows.
Yes.
And then my son got sick, and we had to pull that back. Went back into corporate, came out again. That didn't work. Went back, and then finally I got out the third time. What they say, three times the charm.
Three times the charm.
Right. I was like, all right, this got to work. So, hell or high water. So I want the light bulb to go off. So we're, I guess pretty successful entrepreneurs in our own right. And you see that there's a struggle to this. This isn't something that happens overnight. Nobody goes from 0 to 100 overnight. So there are going to be struggles, setbacks, and things that are going to get in your way in your path to success. So make sure that you stay focused and obviously have a plan. One of the things I think a great benefit that you had, Pam, is, at 16, you knew or had an idea what you wanted to do. And a lot of people don't have that. They have no idea. And I'm one of them. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, especially after, going, corporate for 6, 7, 8 years. And I just didn't know where to go per se. So I kind of let path of least resistance, what I was doing at my job. So in my advertising position, I was doing and helping a lot with trade shows and expos. So I had a little experience there. So I went out on my own based on some of my skill sets. And it sounds like you kind of did the same thing too, in reference to the jobs that you had. Let me ask you, Pam, how did you finance? We're talking about your PR firm now in 2000. How did you finance that? Or did you just go self-finance it, or just say, hey, let me get some clients and I'm ready?
So
Talk to us about that.
So remember, I left my my husband had a business, Perry Marketing Group, and our daughter was 4 years old. That business went out of business. Both of us were employed at that company, so we had no financing. We had no bank loan. We actually had to file bankruptcy. And so at that point, it was like, either you do it or your child doesn't eat. So
Right.
how did I do it? I did it from the bootstraps. And basically I went out and I got clients, and I actually kept getting clients and getting clients until the point where it was self-funded. It was self-funded. It was from the profit in the business that were put back into the business to grow the business. A lot of the staffing and things like that, I used a lot of interns from the college that I went to and things like that. But I
Hmm.
worked a lot of hours at the very beginning. I did. I put in that sweat equity. And so a lot
Right.
of people, when it's like, oh, well, you need to do a business plan and get a bank loan, that was not an option. That was not an option.
Right.
I didn't have the time to do that. I just had to go out and do it. And so, God was on my side at that point in time, because I heard really that, you should start this company. Ministry Marketing Solutions was a company. And so we work with the largest churches in the area. They were the mega
Cool.
churches in the area, four of them. And so we were writing for them, that we were doing their books, we were doing their promotions, we helped them with magazines, we were doing consulting, but I was really working that thing. And
Right.
that it was, now there is a place where people who definitely, if they have like a retail outlet and things like that, where you probably do need capital. But for me, it was about doing the service work, doing the work. So we worked a lot at the very beginning. My husband went and
Hmm.
got a job. Eventually, he found a job. It took a while because he'd been an
Right.
entrepreneur for 10 years. So, a lot of times, if you're an entrepreneur for a while, companies are not likely to hire you because they say they're going to bounce,
Exactly.
So it was hard for
Yep.
him because they were like, well, you've been an entrepreneur and a successful entrepreneur for 10 years. Why do you want a job? It's like, because the business went out of business. And it took a while.
Right.
So, I was really for a long time the breadwinner of the company, of our household
Hmm.
for a long time. So I had to make it work.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that was
That.
it. Mhm.
So it's funny because I call it unemployable.
Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, you're right. They look at your resume. Oh, you had a business. Why are you here?
Yeah.
The real answer is I need a check. Right.
Right. And they kind of like, and then once they kind of get on their feet, they're going to bounce. They ain't have to be
Exactly.
part of this corporate culture here.
And they were right.
Mhm.
So for for me, they were definitely right. It was a check, it enabled me to get back on my feet and do all of that stuff. But yeah, so those hard times come. So let me ask you about self financing now versus people that get funding. What do you think are, well, let me ask you, are you happy that you self funded, or do you wish you would have had money
Um,
financing?
I mean, obviously, if you have an angel investor, it makes it a lot easier. You could probably just do a lot of things without even thinking about it because you have the capital. But I feel really, really good that I never had to take out a loan. I really do.
Right.
I mean, it's nothing wrong with people that are doing that, but I really feel like the business, it made me more hungry to do the selling, to do the
Right.
marketing, to make sure you get the clients, to look at the cash flow. Yeah, it was scary sometimes. It was like, oh my goodness. And then there are some clients you want to fire because they're such a pain in the butt. And it's like, but I really need it. So you have to do that balancing act and just really come to terms with, like I said, the first 5 or 6 years were really, really the telling years. And then after
Right.
like year number 10, it was like a pivot, and you just feel like I can kind
Right.
of relax a little bit. I do have testimonies. I do have the clients that say I do good work, and I have referrals. And so,
Hmm.
you can always get, I mean, there's microloans that you can get as well if you want to buy a piece of equipment and things like that. But like I said, we were really selling services. So public
Right.
relation services, you don't really need capital. You just really need the work,
Right.
and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because sometimes, coming from my background, former stockbroker at Merrill Lynch, I used to deal with a lot of entrepreneurs and athletes. And a lot of times when people start businesses, sometimes having capital can be a negative because they'll tend to spend money unwisely because it's there, you know?
Exactly.
And so you have to be very cognizant about how you use your resources. So I'm everything I've started, I've pretty much bootstrapped. I may have gotten a couple $1,000s from here or there from family members, or what I would call like close friends as investors, but nothing major. And I'm happy that I did that also, because you don't really have to answer to anybody
Yeah, and
except yourself.
creativity really comes when you are bootstrapping.
That's it. Yep.
Looking at Damon John or any of the people, they didn't start out with a whole lot of money, but they were really, really creative, right? And that's what I
Exactly.
feel like, that when you are uh, painted in that corner, you have got to figure it out. And I helped figure it out. I mean, the internet was just coming online. That was a whole nother thing that I just really
Oh yeah.
dove right into, that I said, I'm gonna figure this out. Now remember, at this time, I'm starting at 40 years old with a business.
Right.
So it was, and then the internet was new. And so most of my PR colleagues were like, what are you doing on the internet? What is that
Right.
about? You know, because they were just like shaming me, like, oh, you're working from home. And
Right.
it's like, yeah, that's where so everything was so different. And now everybody works from home and the internet is the norm. But at that point in
Right.
time, and I'm good at this because this is what I've been doing,
Mm-hmm.
but now a lot of people are doing it. And it's like, well, how do you use this? Or
Exactly.
how do you have 25,000 people on Twitter? What are you doing? I'm like, I've been doing this
Yeah.
for a while. Okay. I had to figure this out. I had to at the very
Too.
beginning when you all were shaming me because I didn't go to an office every day and I was working from
Exactly.
home, because all I needed was a computer and a phone. That was it.
Well, it's funny because we're
And good internet.
similar in age. Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because I did an episode and I talked about when I started. First of all, entrepreneurship wasn't even cool. You had to be an idiot. You left your job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't cool like it is now. And then I just tell people, I said, do you understand, the younger folk, do you understand the opportunity you have? So back in the day, I was like, if I wanted to connect with an audience, I got to do TV advertising, newspaper, radio.
Shake a bunch of hands, running around town, giving out business
Exactly.
cards. Yeah.
All of that. Now it's, instead of, and I tell you, it's the young folks, great, use the social media for entertainment and all that good stuff, but leverage it.
Mm-hmm.
Leverage the technology right now, because trust me, if we had this technology when we started, oh my gosh,
Oh
it
my
would have
God.
been crazy.
Even
So
for PR at the beginning, Jay, when I was trying to get a lot of the PR out, I had to do what they call fax blast. Okay, I know that.
facts, I
Yeah.
remember
Oh
those.
my God! So you know what I'm
Yep,
saying?
I know
Now
exactly what you're
I
talking
can do
about.
press releases, put them on the wire, and I can actually send it
Bam,
to the inbox directly to a report. I mean, it's so different. It's
definitely.
better, and it is so much
Yeah,
better. So when I put a press release out, it can go immediately to a lot of the inboxes of the reporters and things like that, just because of
yeah.
technology. Yeah, it's great.
See.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about that in a minute, about some of your services and some strategies and tactics that you have. I just wanted to ask you real quick, did you have any mentors
Yes.
when you started your business?
Oh yes, yes,
Okay.
definitely. They were. They're still my mentors today. So you never get rid of mentors, right? They're like always your mentors. So one of my mentors was Helen Love, and she was a
Okay.
producer at a TV station. Another one was Dr. Marilyn French Hubbard. She was the president of the National Association of Black Women Entrepreneurs. Back when people couldn't even hardly spell the word entrepreneur, I helped her with a lot of her events. Her first event that she did with Susan Taylor, and she was probably the
Oh,
most
wow.
inspiring one.
That's
I just talked to her the other day. She's retired in Florida now. And my
cool.
other Helen Love, she's still a producer, not in TV, but she's a producer on radio and things like that. And she, they talked to me about social media. And then George Fraser. George Fraser is a mentor of mine.
Oh, man, that's my man.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so he's a speaker, an author, and I worked with him. I met him actually through Maryland, and I worked with him before he even had his book, Success Runs in Our Race. So they have
Wow.
been wise people in my life, wise women, wise men in my life that I listened to. And I remember the advice that George gave me when he said, Pam, you do really good work, but let me tell you this: you can't sell to broke folk. And I was like,
Right.
what? He says, a lot of these churches and things that you're working with, they said they have a poor, they don't value your expertise. He says, so you
Right.
can't work with broke folk. And then I remember Helen Love saying to me, she says, okay. She says, quit complaining, don't fret. What are we going to do? I mean, she's like, this type of people, like, let's produce the next thing. And then
Right.
Marilyn,
Let's
for the
go.
longest, she says, it matters for not if you're not really healthy and wealthy. You can have all the wealth that you want, but you have to stay healthy. Because, she says, being a
Right.
workaholic, she says, I've been there, done that. She said, it's not good for your health. It's not good for your family. So she really is a person that really showed me about balance in my life, and really how to
That's
make
good.
sure that as an entrepreneur that you don't work 24 hours a day. That
Can't do it.
grind thing is not going to be not helpful for anybody,
Nah,
to be grinding all the time. So yeah,
it's
so each one
ridiculous.
of them have different things, and I go to them for different, and they all know each other too, by the way.
Oh, cool, cool.
So they all know, and they'll look at me when I did Speakers Magazine. I went to George, and he was the first cover for Speakers Magazine, and he was the one that really kind of shared the vision about it and really was supported and things like that. And so when I have mentors are people that pour into you, but also I pour into them. At
Right.
drop of a dime of anything, if they need anything, I'm there. I mean, Marilyn, yesterday, she says, can you make sure can you help me put this picture on this thing in this frame? Because she's a Delta, right? And she's like, can you
Right.
help me do that? I was like, sure, no problem. It's like in the middle, like, yeah, bam, here you go. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, because I couldn't figure this technology out. So you have to pour into your mentors as well. You have to be of service to them. That's what the mentor relationship is. You serve them, and then they pour into you. So,
Yeah, that's a blessing. I want the light bulb to go off for the BEB family. Mentorship is so crucial and important. And so it doesn't matter if you're 3 steps ahead of somebody else or 30 steps ahead of somebody else, you can be a mentor. So especially in our community, we want to make sure that, and I know everybody's trying to grind and get theirs, but don't forget the people behind you and also the shoulders that you stood on to get where you are.
Yeah.
So make it a point to bring somebody that's serious, not somebody BSing around, but some people that are serious and need your assistance. Always try to help them out and be a mentor or some type of guide for them. You mentioned my man, Dr. George Fraser. So he was actually one of the first, I think he was like the 3rd or 4th interview on my podcast, got 7 years ago. And I connected with him through one of my mentors, God rest his soul, George Curry.
oh yeah,
Who,
that journalist.
yeah. So George Curry, that was my man. He, when I talked about this podcast, everything he kept asking me, how you going to make money, Jones? How you going to make money, Jones? I said, I don't know, but it's going to work itself out. And, it was so amazing to be able to, and I was introduced to him by somebody. And since I'm in Philly and he was in DC at the time, he said, man, come on up and we'll talk about stuff. He didn't know me from a can of paint.
Wow.
So I took my oldest daughter, who was in college at the time, and I took her with me. I think she was on a break or something. And we went up and she was like, Dad, I always see you in control. She said, Mr. Curry broke it down. I was like, yeah, I'm listening. This is a mentor. And from that point on, I used to go and see him probably at least once a month.
Wow.
And just get that wisdom. Yes. And that experience from him. And he hooked me up with George Fraser. So, yes. So, and a lot of, lot of great people. So I always respected the mentorship with that. I want to jump into.
I miss Emerge Magazine. George was over there.
Oh, tell me about it. He was trying to get me in touch with Bob Johnson.
Yes.
But I was like, man, I said, Mr. Curry, he was like, man, I'm trying to get him for you. Never got him. So, and I know he probably gets tons of requests, but let's jump into Pam Perry PR. All right. So I wanted to ask you, who is your ideal client that you look for?
Someone who basically has a lot of clarity in terms of what they want to do with their messages. So it's a person that has a brand pretty much established, but they really want to extend that brand. They want to go out more into the media. They want to be more in major media. So someone like give an example of a person, Juanita Ramses. So Juanita Ramses, she did a TED Talk, had great reviews for that. She's a pastor's wife. They are the pastors of Beyonce and Tina Knowles, right?
Oh, wow.
And the whole family, like Michelle Nolan. And so she has a little cachet. She speaks very well. She has a great website, and she just she dropped a book. And so at that point, she needed someone to really help her get out there more, to get on national television, regional television, magazines, covers of magazines, and things like that. So I can work my magic with someone that has their things already together. They're clear about what they want. Her book was called Learning to Be. It was about getting over her episode with depression and just really learning about mindfulness and things like that. It's her mission, it's her message. She did events around it. She did books around it. I mean, workbooks, things like that. So people who are really caught up in their own message, knowing that this is what they're supposed to be doing. They're clear about it. They're not trying to do this and that just for money, but they really want to extend their brand and get more media exposure and more credibility about what they're doing. Those are my ideal clients. People who come to me who aren't really sure, they're just starting out. I do have programs for them, but I'm just not their publicist. I'm the publicist for people who already have a little bit of a cachet. And then those who are building up to that, I teach them how to build their author platform, how to build their brand, how to really leverage the media on their own first. Because if you're going to get me involved, it's going to be a little bit more costly than if you do it yourself. So at the beginning, you do need to put in a little bit of sweat equity. I teach you all the things that I know, but you do have to do it yourself. So I have clients that I do for them. I have clients that I do with them in like a group situation. And then I have the ones where it's do it yourself. I have those programs where someone's just starting out. So it's 3 different levels, but my ideal client is the people that I've worked with, people like Bishop T.D. Jakes or Dr. Cindy Trim, Dr. Stacia Pierce, people who already, when you look at them, they've got like thousands and thousands of followers on social media. They've written like, 10, 20 books and things like that. Michelle McKinney-Hammond's written like 40 books. Those are the people where definitely in terms of like making sure when they hire a publicist, where does that publicist put them? To, at that right time. It's all about timing, connecting the right people to the right thing. And so that's what a publicist will do for you. Yeah.
Now that's amazing. We need to talk, because when I talked to you the first time, I wasn't ready. I think I'm ready now.
Yes.
So I had to get, it's so funny when, I was talking about my new website and my new rebrand. A friend of mine has a girlfriend who is a publicist. And she told me 2 years ago, she's like, dude, your back end got to get right before anybody talks. And she was right. And so it took a while to get my new site up and everything flowing. But I'm ready to rock now. So we got to talk after we.
Take a while. A lot of people to get a speaker reel, to get a one sheet, get the right bio, all of those what I call the hard assets take a while. But then also to just a time of really putting out content on a consistent basis. And I would say, because you have been doing this for a while, you have content on a consistent basis. If people were to Google your name, things will come up that are good, that are all consistent and everything is related to the brand. Everything is congruent. And so sometimes when people Google their name, they could see things that aren't congruent. It's like, ooh. Or they'll Google their name and nothing comes up. Nothing comes up but PQ or whatever, the Facebook. It's like, okay, you really don't have a brand yet. So I always advise people to Google themselves to see what comes up with their name. All right.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Now, do you work with, in addition to individuals, do you work with like physical brands? Okay.
Yeah, I
got you.
Physical,
like products?
Yeah, not necessarily products, but publishers and things like that. I work with organizations. I work with AARP. Obviously, they have a brand. I work with Chicken Soup for the Soul. That's a publisher. Those are particular brands. So those kind of things, but not necessarily like product based, unless the product is them, so to speak. So I have a client that they have a product. It's a beauty product, but in order for a beauty product to sell, a lot of times they have to become a personality. So they have to develop a personal brand. So working with them to develop their personal brand is a little bit of a mind stretch for them, because they're like, I just have my product. My product is good. I said, but if you're going to do interviews, you're the one that people are going to be looking at. They're going to be looking at you. So you have to develop your personal brand. It's like Carol's Daughter, right? It's like, okay, Carol's Daughter was a great product for Black women's hair, but who was Carol's daughter? So then that, Lisa was the daughter, or she was Carol's daughter. So a lot of the brands, when you look at it, even Naturalicious, which is Gwen Jameer, she has a personal brand, but Naturalicious, people can relate to her. And it all goes back to the same thing, whether it's a product or a service. People have to know you, like you, and trust you. And so that's where personal development and personal branding comes into play, because people have to know you. It's very important.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Pam, one of the things I talk about on the show all the time is one of my favorite words, and a BEB family member, they're probably tired of me talking about the word platform, because I tell them how important having your own platform is in reference to being successful. Yeah. Talk to me, because I know in your website, you kind of mentioned that. So your website says about building your brand, getting exposure, and increasing sales.
Yeah.
So you talk about your platform. Talk to the BEB family about platform, some of the ways to build your platform and why it's so important.
So let's look at book publishing, for example. So give an example. So a lot of times a publisher will look at your book and say, oh, this is a great book. What's your platform? So people are saying, well, what does a platform really mean? So I sat on a board for a couple of publishing companies, and we were looking at editorial proposals for people that brought in books. So the idea was minor. The major part of that book proposal had to do with their marketing plan. And in that marketing plan spelled out what their platform was. Not necessarily what their ideas were, but how many people are they reaching? How many stages are they on? What is their email list? What is their YouTube channel subscribers, their Twitter subscribers? What is the engagement on Facebook? They're looking at how many people you can touch, how many eyes and ears are on you. That is your platform. They don't want to see anyone that's just like coming out of a cave and writing a book. They want people that can sell a book. It's about sales. So the more people that you can reach on your own, the better they can market and position you in the general market. And so it's the same way if it's Moody Press or if it's Random House, they want to look at your platform. A good example of that is Valerie Burton. Valerie Burton, before she became the life coach, the fabulous life coach that she was actually a publicist. She was a publicist and she did a lot of, so she knew the game about that, right? And so when she did her first book, Rich Mind, Rich Rewards, it was self-published. It did well. It sold thousands of copies. And then she had it republished and she sent it to a publisher, right? She got an agent, then she sent it to a publisher. And because she had a platform, she had really put herself on tour. She had put in her own dime. She sold her book. They saw all the media that she had garnered. That's when they said, okay, she has a platform. And so the media, PR, radio, TV, and print, those are the things that build your platform. It establishes your credibility. And so it just can't be Facebook. It just can't be, Instagram, but it has to be other people talking about. That's why you see people like, oh, I've been featured in Forbes. That's a big deal. That's what publishers look for in terms of building your platform. It just means that more eyes and ears can see you. That typically it's not just your same people on your platform, but it's in other people's platforms. So that's what I always say. That's why media is important. But yeah, platform is key. It really is in building your brand.
All right, BEB family, you heard that. That light bulb better be going off bright, super bright on that, because I talk about platform all the time. I have I had a coaching student several years back who was doing Bafo business on Instagram. And he had all kind of different products he was selling. One of his competitors got mad at him, had all of his followers complain about this guy's IG account, shut him down. He pretty much lost his business. So I tell people all the time. Yeah, well, yeah, he did, because he was calling me all hours of the night, and I've been telling him, I'm like, dude, you got to build your platform on something that you control, your database, your emails. I know, all your social media stuff, that's gravy. You don't control that. Look at what's the Republican senator that just got shut down on social media, Marjorie something.
Green.
Marjorie Green. So you don't control that. You want to have that presence, but that can be taken away from you at any time.
That's a big lesson. You should own your own media. You should own your own media. I did that years ago. This was really before YouTube and all that stuff really got really popular, but own your own media. Like, you can have your own radio station by your podcast. You can have your own TV show by YouTube. You can have your own newspaper, magazine by a blog. So own your own media is really, really important. Not because the gatekeepers will keep you out, but if anything goes down, you have your own things that are based on what you're producing, your own content. You own it, and have your own website. Have everything stream into there. So blogs are really, really important because you own that. If you have your own hosting company, you pay for that. When you pay for something, you're going to own it. If you don't pay for IG, Facebook, or whatever, you don't own it. YouTube can even shut you down too. If you read their little community rules, it's like, you've got 3 strikes, you're out. You put in the wrong music or whatever, they So
Yep.
you want to make sure that you do have those things in a Wistia account or Amazon S3, because those videos, once they're gone from YouTube, you can't get them back.
It's a wrap.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's funny. I use Vimeo and Amazon
Yeah.
S3 for my backup videos. One of the things that I always tell people, I said, and I got to get better on social media, so that's why we're going to be doing an IG live. We're going to be letting people, all that good stuff, come in and ask you questions. Just a reminder, BEB family, Wednesday evening, January 26th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have the PR guru herself, Pam Perry, on, and we're going to be taking questions from the BEB family about building your platform and also obviously getting more exposure via using public relations. But I tell people all the time that you have to control that, So, you got earned, owned, and paid media.
Mm-hmm.
So that owned media, you have to understand that that's really where it's at. And I don't get, and I have to increase my YouTube views and all that, but mine come from downloads and my database. So I have over 60,000 people in my BEB database. A couple 100,000 downloads a month on the podcast. So that's my platform. Nobody can touch that.
Mm-hmm.
They can't shut me down if they want to. So, which is a good thing, right?
But about it too, you've been doing this for what, 7 years? Almost
7 years,
a decade. So people who are starting podcasts today, please understand that you may not get 1,000 people downloading your podcast right out the gate. It's going to take time, and actually it's harder today because there are more people starting podcasts, so the competition is stiffer. So when you say like, oh my God, my podcast, I'm gonna just give it up, I'm not getting like about 1,000 downloads, I'm not even giving 550 downloads. So just don't, you have to keep going, and don't let it be the only thing, but be consistent with it, because Jay has been consistent with this over the years. This is a gift of his, so it's something that is going to take time for you if you really want to do it. If it's something that you're doing because other people are doing it, you probably won't stick with it. But if you feel called to do it, you'll stick with it.
You'll stick with it. 390 plus episodes, 7.5, almost 8 years. Never missed an episode. And that's what I tell people. When you want to start a podcast, one of my buddies came to me, I think I'm going to do it probably every 2 to 3 weeks. I said, don't waste your time.
Yeah.
I said, people need to know when you come out, when to expect you. Because every time I talk to people, every Monday morning, man, I'm on your new episode. Yeah, they know because it's consistent. 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Monday, a new episode drops. And so that consistency, I just did an episode about, people talked about the time value of money, right? So time value of money is, the benefit of using your money now is better than waiting to use it later. But the time value of consistency, the benefit is over time, as opposed to, it's not going to, like you said, it's not going to pop right away. So my first 30 days of my first episode, I only had 172 downloads, and those were probably family and friends. Now, I'm telling you, now what's so amazing to me is, you mentioned that thousand downloads a month. If you're getting 1,000 downloads a month, that's actually good in today's marketplace, because there's so much competition out there. And what you're going to find, the people that aren't consistent and aren't really called to do this, they're going to drop off after, oh man, I don't have any people,
30
here.
days, 60 days, 60 days.
Right.
Definitely,
And I think too, speak to consistency when it comes to your PR strategy too, how important that is. If you can share that with the BEB family.
So every single month, I would say entrepreneurs, speakers, authors, they need to release a press release once a month. They're like, oh my God, once a month, a press release. There should be some kind of news that you're sharing out with the media at least once a month. If you're a thought leader, a subject matter expert, you have an expertise. You can even look at what's trending in the news and release, a press release about that, or what is going on in terms of the calendar year. You can release a press release around that, because the media is always looking for news stories, new angles from new people. And so we got the month of January, we got MLK coming up. What can you say about that? How has that affected you as an entrepreneur if you're Black? Right? You got Black History Month. So if you can't
Yep.
figure out something you could say during Black History Month, if you're a Black speaker, I'm like, you really probably need to look at something else.
Right.
March, if
Go
you're
do
a
so.
woman, you got Women's History Month, and those are just calendar years. But there's other things. There could be studies or things that are trending in the news. You do have to
Right.
be a little bit of a news junkie to see what is going on. If I were a person that was like a social media expert, maybe I
Hmm.
talk about, Marjorie Green recently being, uh, a person that just was banned from Twitter, and how you should have your own platform, and that should be, these are the tips that you should do if you da da da. And so the media will have you come on and talk about that because that was trending in their newsroom.
Exactly.
That was news, right? That's news that everybody's talking about. How do you
Mm.
find the media? You go on Twitter, you see what's trending on Twitter, you try to figure out angles and hooks that you can write a press release on. It's only a page. It doesn't have to be like a whole story every single month, but there should be something that you're talking about that leads to a story, not an ad. That's different.
Right.
That leads to a
Right.
story. Okay, obviously the
Right.
inference is that you're in business, so you're going to get traffic, that will build your business, but don't ever just put out a release like I have a book or I have this,
Right.
I'm selling this, or I have a new mastermind. That's not a news story. That's an
Right.
ad. And so they can know the
Gotcha.
difference between that. So yeah, so on a regular basis, find news and angles and hooks and things like that on a regular basis. Media relations is important. Don't just reach out to media only when you need them. That's the same as networking with anything. They're people. So if you see
Hmm.
them tweeting something or putting something on social media, like it, share it, comment, tell them there's a great story. But media relations, and it could be like maybe 10 media people that you follow that you really, really love their stuff. Let them know.
Hmm.
You can let
Mm.
them know. And I mean, if it's Tamron Hall, people say, "Oh, I want to be on Tamron Hall." It's like, do you even watch her every day? Are you like a Tamron
Right.
Hall? Know what kind of topics she's covering? I said, what you do and what Tamron Hall covers is not
Excuse me.
is not
Right.
what she covers. So you know nothing about Tamara Hall other than the fact that she's quote unquote famous. But if you really look at
Right.
what she's covering, you could see how you can do a double dutch and jump in when it's the right time because you're on
Exactly.
top of it enough. So that's one of the things I always tell people: become a news junkie to know, make a list of the top 10 media that you really want to be in, and then really become student of the media. Become a student of it. Follow them on Twitter,
Yeah.
Instagram, LinkedIn. Know what they're talking about. Send them your book. Become their friend. It's media relations one on one. Just like
Excuse me.
any
Mm.
type of networking. It's about relationships. And so
Ships.
many
Yeah.
times when people have something that they want to sell, it's like, oh, I just want to get on CNN, and they just run up there cold. I'm like, you get slapped down. It's like
Right.
you're just spam to them because you have built no relationship. Even if
Relationship.
you can't get on CNN, the television show, there's a different category for CNN.com, which is actually the digital version. So you can even
Version.
look at
Okay.
the bylines of those particular things as well and follow those content creators as well. So a
That's a
lot of
good.
things in
That's a good
publicity,
point.
um,
Yeah.
it's common sense, but it's not easy, but it's a science, but it's not rocket science, I guess you would say.
Size.
So you really do have to take the time. And some people are like, whoo, that's just too much. I just can't do it. Then that's why you hire publicists, because some people don't want to do it. They don't want to they don't want to do the media relations. They rather someone else who have the media relationships to go do that for them.
Hmm.
And so it just
Exactly.
depends. Depends on your personality.
Now it's funny that you mentioned that because over the past, my gosh, probably the last really 2 years, I probably Pam, I probably get about 5 or 6 requests to be on the show each day
Hmm. Hmm.
from publicists. And one of the things when I send out an interview request form, I ask them, because I need everything. I
Right.
just can't be reading through email, so
Right.
I put it in a format. Have you listened to the show, and if so, on what platform? I mean, really,
And
because
they would say probably no. They just see the name of the show, and it's like
right,
they're clicking select all and sending out emails.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so,
Like,
and I'll be honest, when I go through and I see that the people that have listened to the show, even if it's one episode or whatever, I'll be like, okay, at least they know who I am, what I'm talking
right.
about, the way I do things. And it does make a difference because if you're just, like you said, clicking on there and like,
Select.
yeah, I don't know who this guy is, but he must be getting some downloads. Let's try to get you on this show. There's no relationship there. So I've formed relationships with publicists, and when they reach out to me and they say, "Hey, I got somebody good," if it makes sense, then guess what? They're going to jump to the front of the line.
Yes.
You know,
And the
yeah. And
publicist,
matter of fact, you've recommended people to me.
yeah,
You know, and I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, cool, yeah, exactly. So we have a relationship,
right.
and it's a real big difference. So, man, you got a lot of, and I know that you haven't even touched the tip of this iceberg. You have so many tips and strategies over your years. I don't want to hold you too much longer, but I just have about 2 or 3 more questions for you, if that's okay.
Yeah, I just want to say
Yep.
really quick
Yeah.
too. A publicist, their reputation is based on the client that they recommend. So if the client is off kilter when say if I recommend someone to Jay and they're off kilter or was off brand of his show or whatever, he will never answer my email again because their
Yeah.
reputation was a reflection on me, not necessarily the guest, but on me.
Right.
So publicists have to really, really guard that. And so a lot of times clients that aren't quote unquote ready and they say, well, you have a relationship, you got people in O Magazine, I want to get on O Magazine. It's like, I know what O wants, and I'm not going to
Right.
recommend you, not from the fact that it's based on you, but based on my reputation, knowing that what they're looking for, you're not ready yet. So we can do
Right.
some other type of magazines first and then circle back to O. And they're like, people think like, oh, she's just trying to hold me back from my dreams. It's like, no, I'm just trying to help you, because once you strike out with a particular large platform, you are going to be
Right.
blacklisted and you probably won't get on anything because of the
Wow.
way you showed up. So I just try to protect people
Okay.
too as well. Mm.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Pam, I wanted to ask you, what 3 pieces of advice would you give to, and it doesn't matter if they're current or prospective entrepreneurs right now, what would be, say, the top 3 pieces of advice off the top of your head that you would give entrepreneurs right now?
Main thing that their brand is congruent all
Okay.
across everything. If you, as much as you can, have your name congruent, have your email congruent, have your website congruent. Everything is congruent, so it looks like a brand. So think about Nike. Everything is congruent with Nike. Sometimes I look at
Right.
these entrepreneurs and stuff is wacky on one particular platform or on their website. The color, I mean, just make sure it's congruent. Okay, that's like a seamless brand. That's number 1. Number 2 is making sure that you do have a platform, that you are building an email list, that you are communicating with that email list, not spamming them or selling them, but offering value to them, to a list of people who've raised their hand that I want to receive information from you via email, that you provide good information. What I do every single week, I send out a podcast, I send out a newsletter. And the newsletter and the podcast is free information on marketing, PR, and branding. They know without a doubt they're going to get something like that. Every once in a while, yes, I do tell them about my programs, but that's not like every day. So that's number
Right.
2. Number 3 is to make sure that you are networking, that you're networking with your what I call influencers in your industry. You're networking with your ideal audience, that you're networking with the media. That is so important because 50% of your job as an entrepreneur is really about sales. And people will
Right.
buy from people they know, like, and trust. So you do have to, quote unquote, get out there. You do have to show up on stages, public speaking. You do have to show up on podcasts. You do have to go to maybe some Facebook groups and interact with your ideal audience. I mean, those are people say, oh, that's just so much. But that's what you're in business for. They will not
Right.
buy from you if they don't know you. And so even if you're on LinkedIn, post things that are congruent with your brand. Don't just go off on like, well, I'm going to talk about what I ate today and how I didn't like this restaurant. Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not, is it really like, text that to a friend. Don't put it on, don't put it on
Exactly.
your social media. You know, you got something you want to say, you know,
Right.
stay congruent with your brand. Think about Oprah magazine and Oprah, the person, Oprah, the television. I mean, everything is congruent. You know, she's always
Right.
talking about living your best life. You're never going to see anything that's off brand with her. Ever.
Right.
Ever. So
Yeah,
be
that's a
congruent.
great point.
hmm
Yeah. I'm just writing this down.
And
So,
your email.
when,
Make sure that you have an email that is branded. Like,
a professional
yeah,
one, right?
professional email. Like it in between the dot and the .com should be your URL. All right, not a
Right.
Gmail, not a Yahoo.
Oh,
Definitely, if you're AOL we gonna, I don't know what to say
We know
about you
what's up,
there.
right?
I would say, but it like mine is staff at Pam Perry PR, or info at Pam Perry PR, or my name at Pam Perry PR. I mean, it has to, and the
Right,
reason why is that when you send the email, people will know it's not spam. That they can actually
right.
go to that website and find out more information before they even really open it and take you seriously.
Exactly.
It's just,
I do that all the time.
yeah,
I
yeah.
do it all the time. Yep. Oh, from such and such. Let me go to the website, and then yeah. I can't. That's one of my pet
It
peeves. I'm
is.
telling you,
Me
Pam.
too. It is.
Whatever your business name is at gmail.com. Like,
No,
come on, man.
no. That
Yeah,
is a
don't do that.
big, big no, no. That's a red flag that they don't know what they're doing.
Right. Did you? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you ready
I
to say?
will. And so part of what my thing is, I'm so honest with people. I will tell them, I said, you know what? You need to do this, this, and this. And a lot of times it hurts their feelings, but that's because my mentors used to do that to me. And it's like, you
Right.
need to, and it would just, slap me into shape, so to speak. But you need someone that's going to
Hmm.
speak the truth to you. And it's like, listen, you want to be out here trying to make $1 million, you need to drop the Gmail. All right.
Right.
Ain't nobody gonna pay you no $1 million and you are such and such a Gmail or Yahoo.
Exactly.
Yes, yes.
Oh, it's funny. I did an episode, and I got this from George Fraser. I don't know if you ever heard the talk where he was talking about doing business
Do
or doing
business.
business. Yeah,
Oh yeah, I know the business.
the business, right?
That is Dr. George. That is Dr.
Yep.
George. Yes.
And so you got a Gmail address for your business. You doing business. You ain't doing business. So
That's true. So we want
but
everybody to level up in 2022. We want you to level
that's it.
up. Be
Oh
like the
man.
brand that you're supposed to be. Look at your people who
Exactly.
are the benchmark in your industries and emulate that. If you want to be like
Right.
Target has no email at like
Right.
emulate the benchmarks. Yes.
Target at gmail.com, right? Oh, so I got two more questions for you, Pam, before I let you go. The first one is there anything I neglected to ask you that you think the BEB family needs to know, or any remarks that you want to share? And then we're going to let you give out all your contact information. I also know you have some programs on your website. I definitely want you
Yes,
to
yes.
promote those too.
Well, the main thing about PR, so many people think that, oh my goodness, I'm going to contact a publicist and they're going to get me on, Good Morning America, Today Show, CNN, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and this and that. And I always say, if you've never had any media before, you have to walk before you run. So when I
That's
say
right.
media begets media, people say, what does that mean? Meaning that you start local. And if you're an African American, start with your local black newspaper. If you, or your black radio stations, or your just niche it down within your area first. Start local, get some media, get some coverage, see how you sound on maybe your local television station on the weekends, maybe your local origination stations on cable. I mean, but get started small and it'll grow. And then I could take those clips and those newspaper articles and then share it with a larger one, and then you get something this big, like maybe in your daily, Philadelphia Tribune, or
Right.
something like that. And it's like, wow, then you can take it and send it to the magazine, the large magazine, and so it grows. But when you're trying to do a shotgun and say, I just want to be on these major television shows, you're not going to get anything, because they want to see how
Right.
you performed in the other markets, the markets that are not major networks. Like, okay, so maybe New York is the number one market. So maybe go into markets that are like below, like in
Right.
Mississippi, Alabama, depending on the smaller
Hmm.
markets where you get on those television shows, because they have less people and it's less crowded and it's less competition. But you can slide in there with your good message and really perform like a superstar. And then you can take that ABC affiliate link or the NBC affiliate link and send it to a larger market, because it shows you that you're doing a good job. So I always tell people, start small, never despise small beginnings, never turn your nose up of any newspaper, podcast, magazine, speakers magazine. Sometimes people will say, oh my goodness, how do you get all these people on the cover of the magazine? It's like, I ask and I'm nice.
Right.
It gets exposure for them. They
Right.
don't look, and because of the people that they are, because I know that they are messengers and they're really like wanting to share their light, very rarely do they say no. Les Brown's been on the cover. Stephanie Mills been on the cover. Kim Coles. I mean, they know that I have a different sphere of influence that they want to get to, and they don't say like, I'm not going to be on that because I never heard of that magazine, or it's small, or it's only 4 years old. No, because of the people that they are, they will come on, and that's why they get the bigger things, because they treat all media people the same. They don't think that one is a A, B, and C. They treat them all the same. So they're really, really nice about it. And I think that sometimes when entrepreneurs are first starting out, they feel like, well, if it's not going to be like major media, I don't want to do it. Well, you probably won't get any media. That's going to be if you have that attitude. So I always tell people to make sure that you treat every media outlet, because you never know where that journalist, he may be working for the small Black newspaper right now, but eventually in his career, he may start working for the New York Times. And because they remembered you from when you gave them a really good story for the small paper where they worked, they will then reach back to you when they're at a larger place. And same thing with TV producers. You know, they may start here at a small network, but next thing you know, they could be working for OWN, you know? So I would say just, you never know where people are going to end up. So treat everybody with kindness and respect.
That's great advice. It's funny, you mentioned Speaker Magazine, and this just came to mind. So I always talk about ecosystem. So you're in public relations. You started Speaker Magazine. That's a direct spinoff. Obviously, that's an ancillary business for your main business. So don't sleep on an ecosystem, or building an ecosystem around your brand and around your business too. Don't forget, please share your social media contact information, Pam. Also your website.
Yes. And it's really simple, and I teach this. It's PamPerryPR.com. Something that you can say on a podcast, really easy. People aren't confused about what it is that you do. So as much as you can, make sure that your brand stays on brand. PamPerryPR.com. And that's where you find everything, from the magazine to the podcast to the blog, all of my programs and everything like that, and even my free ebook as well. So PamPerryPR.com. And a lot of times people say, well, you know, you can go here and then you can go there. It's just like, no, try to make it a one-stop shop. People can't remember a whole lot of things. They can't really remember no more than 3 things when you tell them at a time. It's like I said, my husband, as he's going to the grocery store, I said, get this, get that, and get this. And if I say the 4th thing, he said, oh, I got to write a list.
Exactly.
I can't remember all that. So just PamPerryPR.com. That's just where
That's
everything.
Cool. Also, last question, Pam. If you had the opportunity to speak to somebody living or dead, who would it be and why?
Martin Luther King. Okay. And it's, I mean, it's just, we have MLK coming up this Monday, you know, his holiday, but just the fact that, oh my God. I mean, I was only 8 when he died, so I didn't really appreciate a lot of what he did, or his books, or Letters to Birmingham Jail. I mean, I've gone down. Like, huh? And so the closest that I've come to that is I've met both the sons, Dexter and Martin Jr., and I've also met Bernice. Love her. I think she has her father's spirit. Never met Yolanda. She passed, but I would say Martin Luther King, phenomenal. Definitely. I mean, just if you realize how young he was when he graduated from college and what he did, it's like, I would love to have dinner with him. It's like, let's just. Can I just listen to you? Amazing. You know, it's just like amazing. He would definitely be the one. He's a reason why I do what I do, really. I mean, so a lot of times I would go in different places and I feel like I'm like the Martin Luther King in the media, right? Because it's like part of the reason why I started Blacks in Advertising, Radio, and Television. Part of the reason why I started Speakers is because they never really gave us the opportunity that we deserve. And so I just took it. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to highlight Black speakers. I'm going to highlight Blacks in Advertising, Radio, and Television. I'm going to highlight Black women in media. I'm Black. And so he's a person that inspired me. And besides, Barry Gordy, I probably want to chat with Barry Gordy, but he did good, but not like Martin Luther King, right? So there's no national holiday for Barry Gordy. So,
They don't have a local one in Detroit for him? They don't have Barry Gordy Day?
They got a street for him. I mean, okay, we got a street for Barry Gordy. We have a street for Stevie Wonder. We got a street for, different artists from the Motown era, and they're all cool. But yeah, they
Yeah,
weren't like Martin Luther. I mean, Barry definitely benefited from a lot of stuff that Martin Luther King spoke about and inspired him. So yeah.
definitely.
Hmm.
So when I know you couldn't make it last time I was in Detroit. I think it might have been your
Yes.
anniversary or something like that. But so I ended up going by
Me too.
Motown. I was like, man, that's it. Because I'm thinking, but it's a house.
It's just one little
Yeah.
house. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's one little
Yeah.
teeny
And I
house.
was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, man, but that's so much history.
Hmm.
So much history is there. So next time I'm actually coming to Detroit. I think it's in April or
Ooh,
May.
okay.
I
Definitely have to
yeah,
see
I'll
you.
definitely yeah, definitely we got to link up there. But Pam, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story and your expertise with the BEB family. Amazing content. Don't forget, guys, you can talk to Pam live Wednesday, January 26th. That's 2 days from today. This drops on the 24th, Monday, Wednesday the 26th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on IG Live, our first IG Live. So make sure you follow me, J Jones for real, the number 4, JAYJONES, the number 4, REAL. Also, my second one is Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. And Pam, your IG is
Pam_Perry. That's
cool. Pam_Perry. So make sure you guys follow us both so you'll get notified when we go live. Thank you so much, Pam. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Thanks for having me. You have a great rest of the day.
You too. Thank you. That was an amazing interview with Pam Perry from PamPerryPR.com. Make sure you check out her website. She has some great tutorials, free ebook, and also courses to help you level up your public relations skills and drive more business. Now, before we get to the takeaways, I just want to share a couple things with the BEB family. First and foremost, guys, don't forget the first IG Live with BEB is on Wednesday, 2 days from today, Wednesday, January 26th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Pam and I will be on IG Live, so you can ask Pam all of your PR questions or ask us anything about entrepreneurship. So make sure you follow me at J Jones for real, JAYJONES, the number 4, REAL, and Pam_Perry on Instagram so you'll be notified. Real quick, let me give you some links to my resources. The first place you really need to go is blackentrepreneurBlueprint.com. Go to blackentrepreneurBlueprint.com, hit the Learn tab, and on the drop-down tab, we'll have all types of information and resources for you to level up your entrepreneur IQ. So go to blackentrepreneurBlueprint.com. You can find all of my resource links. You can find all of the help that you need to grow your business. In addition to that, go to the About page and you'll see all of my social media contact links also. But real quick, if you're interested in picking up my new book, A New Black Wall Street, go to blackentrepreneurBlueprint.com. Once again, hit books and you can order A New Black Wall Street, Circulating the Black Dollar Worldwide by Building Successful E-Commerce Businesses. If you need additional help building your successful, sustainable e-commerce business, my flagship program, Brand Builder Academy Elite, BBAElite.com. Check it out. It's a 15-week implementation program that takes you from product ideation all the way to successfully selling your product or your physical product or digital product on your website and other appropriate websites. Also, I mentioned 2 platforms I created to help circulate dollars in the worldwide black economy. BeSmartByBlack.com. So if you're a black product producer and you want to connect with black consumers worldwide and sell your product, upload your information to BeSmartByBlack.com. It is free. Now, I didn't forget about you freelancers. If you do anything as a freelancer, like on Fiverr or freelancer.com, upload your information to hireblackfreelancers.com. HIRE blackfreelancers.com. Once again, it is totally free to upload. Also, I mentioned at the top of the show, guys, my new rebranded, rebooted BEB Academy. It's an online learning portal that has all types of resources to help you grow your business. You get 3 free days of access. Go to BEBacademy.com or once again, just go to blackentrepreneurBlueprint.com's website and you'll find everything I'm talking about. Now, also, don't forget, guys, if you need to connect with me, anything long, hit me on my email, jjones@blackentrepreneurBlueprint.com. And that's spelled out JAYJONES at blackentrepreneurBlueprint.com. Facebook, just go to Facebook, type in Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. Follow me on Facebook. Instagram, Once again, 2 IG accounts, J Jones for real, JAYJONES, the number 4, REAL. The second IG account is Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. If you want to connect with me on Twitter, it's JJones001. YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, family. We have additional content on YouTube that is not on the podcast. Yes, the podcast does come out on YouTube every Monday morning, in addition to being on all your major podcast platforms. So LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search for J Jones, Black Entrepreneur Blueprint. If you're on Clubhouse, connect with me at I am J Jones. And also, if you're on the new call-in app where I do my new show, Ask J Live, my companion podcast, go to askjlive.com and subscribe. And you can get on live with me every Tuesday, 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and ask me questions about your business, my business, or entrepreneurship in general. I just want to give several takeaways from today's episode. And the first one I wanted to bring to light was Pam mentioned that when her husband's business went out of business and they both literally didn't have any jobs, they had to start from scratch and build their business up. And this is something that's usually common to a lot of entrepreneurs. Sometimes we may lose it all, but being able to have the wherewithal, the foresight, the determination to come back, that's what separates successful entrepreneurs from people that aren't successful. You have to want it bad enough, and you have to continue to push forward. Something else I wanted to note was she talked about a PR plan, that every month you need to be sending out a press release about something pertinent in the marketplace, or actually what's happening in current events. And that's something that I never thought of, but that really makes a whole lot of sense. So you need to be very topical when you send out press releases. Also, guys, make sure you go to PamPerryPR.com, PamPerryPR.com, to check out all of Pam's resources on her link. And of course, make sure you go to BlackEntrepreneurblueprint.com for all of the resources on our link. Before we close on out, guys, I know I say this each and every week, but I say it because I mean it. I want to thank you, the BEB family, because each and every week we get more and more downloads, and that's because of you guys. Please continue to spread the word about the podcast, the blog, the new super improved website at BlackEntrepreneurblueprint.com. And remember, guys, it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about us. It's about building an economic power base in the worldwide Black community by building and supporting Black-owned businesses. Love you guys. See you same time next week. Peace.